What's good, sports fans? Are you ready to elevate your live entertainment experience? Well, let me introduce you to SeatGeek, an amazing platform that connects you to your favorite events while saving you money. With SeatGeek, you can easily find tickets for sports games, concerts, and so much more, all in one place. The interface is user-friendly, making it simple to browse and compare prices. And one of the best features is the interactive seating chart. You can see exactly where you'll be sitting and how much you'll be spending, ensuring you get the best value for your money. But here's the best part. Check this out. By using my promo code, ChalkItUpSports, you can enjoy a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. That's right, $20 off your first SeatGeek order. Imagine catching that thrilling game or concert without breaking the bank. It's a win-win situation. Plus, you'll be a part of a community of fans who eat, sleep, and breathe live events just as much as you do. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to download the SeatGeek app today. And don't forget to use my promo code ChalkItUpSports for a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. Get excited. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah. What's good? This is your boy Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Supremely grateful for you guys locking in on the content as always. Before we get too far, let's get some housekeeping out the way. Let's make sure we do exactly what we're supposed to do. Smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. I cannot stress this enough. Stay engaged, stay locked in, stay active. Goes a long way, helps the content and the channel grow. All right. We got a lot to get into. Can't wait to get into it with you guys. Let's get some shout outs out the way real quick. Shout out to my man KGK. Miss Fanny's in the building, as always. Sweet Chin Music. Miss Tiffany Dark Chocolate, welcome to the show. Mark Kelly, what's good? You feel me? Seveniki, what's going on? S Blunt, my guy, welcome to the show. Appreciate all of you guys for locking in. And I appreciate all of you who may not, be active in the live chat, but you're always locked in on the show. I see you and I appreciate you. Also, shout out to all the people who watch the playback, all the people who probably can't catch the show live for whatever reason. Totally all right. I don't blame you. You always double back and watch the content whenever you get the opportunity, and you guys are very consistent. So you guys mean a lot to me. And shout out to all of you who take advantage of the content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That goes a long way as well. And I want to give a shout out to all my people out there getting it out the mud. All my people who are grinding out there, man. Shout out to all of you guys who are working out there in the heat. Shout out to even you guys who are working in the AC, man. Hey, listen, all heroes don't wear capes. You feel what I'm saying? So shout out to you guys. I can't wait to get into this sports talk because today was a very interesting day in training camp. It's day 5. It's day 5 in training camp. So the pads came on. Today was the first day of pads, and we have quite a few observations, some key observations that I want to talk about. A lot happened, right? But we're going to talk about the things that I deem as really important. What I think about the Eagles offense, I don't really have too many questions or concerns about it. It's just a matter of how they get it done. I believe the Eagles offense is inevitable. I think they're going to end up doing whatever they want to do to the opponent. It's just a matter of how they want to do it. So I don't worry about the Eagles offense. I honestly think the Eagles offense isn't where most of the stories are, or most of the narratives are when it comes to this Eagles team in 2025. Right? Obviously, in 2024, you had the narrative of adding Saquon. You traded for Jihaad Dotson. Mekhi Becton was a right tackle turned right guard, offensive lineman. You did have some injuries early in the season at your wide receiver position between AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I think they missed a combined 8 games. Right, Dallas Goedert got hurt at some point. The passing game, right, that was a conversation point throughout the season. But in my humble opinion, I've come to the conclusion, I've come to this position, and I've always felt this way. But I'm just signing it in stone or etching it in stone. I don't worry about this offense in any way. I think this Eagles offense is going to do exactly what needs to be done when it needs to be done. And it's straight like that. I'm not going to overcomplicate this thing. I'm really not. The stories, the narratives, the excitement, the questions, the answers are on the defensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball, Vic Fangio's side of the ball, is where it's most fascinating. It's more intriguing. And we're going to spend most of our time talking about that. But before we get too deep into what the observations were from training camp, because obviously you guys know I live in Texas. I'm not at training camp, so I rely heavily on reporters that I trust, that I respect. I rely heavily on guys like John McMullen. I love the work he does. I rely heavily on Dave Zangaro. I love the work he does. I rely heavily on Zach Berman and Bo Wolf. I think they do great work as well, especially those guys at PHLY. Fran Duffy, I think he does great work. Who else? My man, Chris. I want to make sure I got this right, man. I want to make sure I get my guys flowers. Got to give him his flowers. I would be remiss if I didn't get his man his flowers. Chris Franklin. Got to give love to Chris Franklin. I think Chris Franklin does amazing work as well. I think Chris Franklin is kind of covering the NFC East as a whole right now. I think he did make a transition covering mainly the New York Giants, but he still does cover the Eagles. But yeah, got to give love to Chris Franklin as well. EJ Smith does great work as well. EJ Smith is really a trustworthy source. So yeah, man. You guys know I'm not there, so I rely heavily on those guys and their observations, and I take their observations, I take their notes, and I cross-reference them, and then I form my own opinions, and I form my own thoughts and assumptions, so on and so forth, for lack of better words. But yeah, man, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the observations from training camp, because I'm going to give you guys my key takeaways from what I've read, I want to lock in on Vic Fangio's press conference. I think Vic Fangio's press conference was very telling. And we know Vic Fangio is not a guy that's going to mince words. We know Vic Fangio is a guy that's not going to say anything he doesn't want to say. He's very honest. He's very honest. And if there's a question he doesn't want to answer, or he doesn't really have a clear answer to, he's going to make that clear that he doesn't have a clear answer for that, or he doesn't have an answer for you at all. But when he does have an answer for you, when you do ask him a question that he's very well versed about, or he has strong feelings about, he's going to give you that. And I think when you're as consistent as a guy like him, when you're as honest as a guy like him, I think all you can do is respect it as a player. And that's just my perspective, right? I want people that's going to be honest with me. I want to work for people who's going to tell me like it is. I don't want anybody holding my hand. I don't want to work for anybody that's not going to be completely honest with my performance and what they need from me. Personally, I like clear-cut directions. I like clear-cut protocols. And I operate better under leadership that knows exactly what they want and specifically what they need from me. That's just the kind of person I am, right? But Vic Fangio, his press conference, I think the biggest takeaway from his press conference, and look, he said a lot of things, right? He said a lot of things. He talked about Moro Ojomo. He talked about Jihaad Campbell. He talked about Sidney Brown. He talked about Matt McWilliams, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Cooper DeJean, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, and Jalen Hunt. He talked about those guys, right? But I think the biggest takeaway the biggest takeaway, the biggest storyline that he just gave us was his thoughts on Adoree Jackson. Vic Fangio's perspective on Adoree Jackson was very, very, for lack of better terms, it was brutally honest. And we know him, we know Fangio to be that. But man, he was honest. And I didn't expect that level of honesty. You know? Let's just call it like it is. Let's just get into what I have here. He was asked about Adoree Jackson's experience in particular and what that can do for him, playing for being drafted by the Titans and playing for them, and then, playing for the Giants and so on and so forth. He was asked about what Adoree Jackson's experience is doing for him with the Philadelphia Eagles. And Fangio essentially said that experience doesn't quite matter right now. He specifically said, quote, "It's too early to say what his experience is or isn't right now. This is the place where he's got to show who he is." Fair enough. Okay. All right. Basically, what you did before doesn't matter. We have you today, and we need to know what you have left today. We need to know who you are today as a Philadelphia Eagle. That makes sense, right? I don't think that's far left or anything at all. I think that's a very practical way of looking at it. Look, he played a lot in the NFL. He's a veteran, but that doesn't mean anything to me. He has to be able to do what I need him to do. And it's just that simple. And I respect that. And that's just who Vic Fangio has been. He made it very clear. He don't care how much you make. He don't care where he was drafted. He don't care what you were told when you got traded or signed here. When it comes to this defense, you do what I ask you to do. You do it right. You execute. You play with high effort. You'll be on the football field. If you're half-stepping or half-assing any sort of drill or anything he needs from you, or if you're not executing, or if you just can't pick up on what he needs from you, you won't play. You won't play. We saw how that turned out with Bryce Huff. They gave him $34 million. Straight up. It was a $51 million deal, but they gave him $34 million. And he was coming off of his best season with the Jets. And Vic Fangio basically said, he still has more to learn. Yeah, we know he can get to the quarterback. He still has more to learn. He needs to know how to play the position I need him to play. He needs to be able to play within the parameters of this scheme here. And if he can't do what I need him to do, he won't play. And eventually, Bryce Huff did not play. So bringing it back to Adoree Jackson, he mentioned the experience. It is what it is, but, we're focused on today and what he can provide today. And he still has more to prove. And this is where things kind of took a little turn. He openly admitted that he did not watch a lot of Adoree Jackson tape. He didn't watch any tape from the off season, over the off season. He knew about him and watched what he watched, when he was being drafted and so on and so forth. But he really didn't. He hasn't studied Adoree Jackson, and Adoree Jackson, frankly, wasn't somebody he had his eye on in free agency. He was very clear that Adoree Jackson was a Howie Roseman signing, and he completely washed his hands of whatever the result will be with Adoree Jackson. Let's just call it what it is, man. And it's so funny because we saw how excited Vic Fangio was when they drafted Jihaad Campbell. So we know what it looks like. We know exactly what it looks like when Vic Fangio likes a player. Remember last season when they signed Zack Baun? Vic Fangio took every opportunity to acknowledge why Zack Baun was a guy that he wanted to develop. He took every opportunity to mention why Zack Baun can be the player he needs him to be. It's just that simple. But when it comes to Adoree Jackson, he was very honest about, he wasn't somebody I was looking at. He wasn't somebody that I was checking for. And that is, I respect it. I gotta respect it. You know, you're dealing with grown men. These are professionals, man. You gotta respect it. KGK says Vic is saying, if I got the man in free agency, I wanted Ringo ass wouldn't be getting any first team reps. Oh, he says Vic is saying, if I got the man in free agency, I wanted Ringo ass wouldn't be getting any first team reps. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think that's a reach. I don't think that's what he's saying at all. I think that's what you would like him to feel or say, KGK. I don't think that's what he's saying at all. Frankly, I don't think it has anything to do with Ringo. This is about Adoree Jackson. Now, obviously, Ringo and Jackson are tied at the hip because they're competing for the job. But I don't think his statements were about Ringo whatsoever. I think he was strictly talking about, hey, if he's not somebody I was checking for, he's not somebody that I was high on, and it's just that simple. I don't think Ringo is necessarily included in that sentiment. That's just my opinion, though. You can have yours. So yeah, let's take it a step further. Like I said, he mentioned he didn't watch any tape on Adoree Jackson, and he took it a step further and said it's time for him to show who he is or who he isn't. That, my friends, is the rub. He's basically saying, look, I'm gonna give him every opportunity. It's up to him to show me who he is and who he isn't. It's up to him. You know, I don't care about that experience. I don't care what you've done. I don't care I don't care about none of that. I didn't watch your tape. I wasn't checking for you. It's up to you. It's up to you. Basically, what he's saying is prove me wrong. That's what I take from that. Prove me wrong. And look, it makes me wonder now, how does Adoree Jackson receive that? And look, I'm sure in the film room and in those meetings and on the field, Vic Fangio, again, I'm sure he's the same person in front of the microphone and away from the microphone. In fact, I bet he's even more brutally honest away from the microphone. I would argue Vic Fangio is probably being his version of professional when the mics come on. But I bet Vic Fangio doesn't pull any punches. Doesn't pull any punches when they're practicing or in training camp or in the film room, so on and so forth. So I'm curious now, how does Adoree Jackson receive that? How does Adoree Jackson play going forward? Because Adoree Jackson didn't have his best day today. He didn't have his best day today. As a matter of fact, there was a moment where he kind of took a step back. He kind of took a step back today, Adoree Jackson. It wasn't his best day. He got called for defensive pass interference in coverage and then got ran over by Johnny Wilson later on in the end zone. So Adoree Jackson didn't have his best day. On top of that, Ringo got the start today with the first team. This was Ringo's first time starting with the first team since day one. Adoree Jackson started day 2, 3, and 4. And while Adoree Jackson took a step back, Ringo took a step forward. But before we get into the training camp stuff, again, I want to continue with Vic Fangio's comments again. He did not pull punches with Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson can do one of two things. He can either take what Fangio said and run with it and focus on the work, or he can essentially shut down and one out. Same thing with Bryce Huff. Only difference is Bryce Huff got a lot of money attached to it. He's either Adoree Jackson can either shut down and not buy in, or he can double down, put his ego to the side, and say, you know what, it's time to grind, and I want to prove Vic Fangio that I still got it. It's only one or two ways to approach this if you're Adoree Jackson. It's only one or two ways. You signed a 1-year deal. As a matter of fact, let me see how much he signed for. I'm pretty sure it was a vet minimum. Let me see what Adoree Jackson signed for. Let's find out real quick, you guys, because I don't think he even signed for anything extravagant. I don't think he signed for anything extravagant at all. I'm willing to bet it was a 1-year vet minimum. Let's see here. All right, Adoree Jackson. Okay. Let's bring this here. Let's bring this on screen so you guys can see this. So Adoree Jackson signed a 1-year, $1.75 million contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, including a $500,000 signing bonus, $1 million guaranteed, and an average. Okay, so they gave him $1.7 million, guaranteed him $100 million. So there you have it, you guys. They gave him $1 million. They gave him $1 million, and he has to earn the rest. They gave him $1 million at signing, and they gave him a signing bonus of $500,000. So they gave him, I mean, as far as cornerbacks go, they gave him pretty low money, but they gave him almost $2 million. That's not the vet minimum. As a matter of fact, what's the vet minimum in NFL right now? Let's see. So Adoree, it says the veteran minimum. It says in the NFL. It says in the NFL, the veteran minimum salary for the 2025 season varies based on years of experience, ranging from $840,000 for players with 0 years of experience to $1.255 million for players with 7+ years of experience. These figures represent the lowest amount a player with that specific experience level can be paid in the standard contract. So Adoree Jackson, real quick, he's 30 years old, or he'll be 30 when the season starts, and he has 8 years of football experience, 8 years of NFL experience. So he falls into the 7+ years of experience category. So the Eagles basically gave him the vet minimum. They guaranteed him the vet minimum. They gave him a little, as far as the total value of the contract, they gave him a little more than the vet minimum because he signed for 1.75. He signed for 1.75. They gave him a $500,000 signing bonus and $1 million guaranteed at signing. So he got $1 million in the bank right now for signing with the Eagles, right? And when you think about it from that perspective, the Eagles haven't really committed too much to him. The Eagles haven't committed too much to him at all. They didn't give him much. So I say that to say, Adoree Jackson, you're 30 years old. You signed a vet minimum. And the Eagles don't owe you much. Again, Bryce Huff signed a 3-year, $51 million deal, $34 million guaranteed. It's a little different. It's a little different. But the Eagles didn't really give you much. So Adoree Jackson got to come in there. He has to come in and prove why he deserves to be the starter. And, today wasn't his best day at all. Ringo outplayed him today. Let's continue with the rest of Vic Fangio's press conference because I definitely want to get into the training camp observations. Let's continue and talk about some other things Vic Fangio said, right? He was asked about Moro Ojomo and what he expects from Moro Ojomo entering year 3. and with the new opportunity to get more reps now that Milton Williams is gone. And also regarding his frame and his physique, because Moro Jomo is relatively undersized. He's built like Milton Williams. They're technically undersized for the position. And Fangio basically kept it pretty simple. He said he thinks he'll hold up well. He thinks he'll do good. He's not worried about Moro Jomo. He likes the strides he's been taking. He also mentioned that he also talked about his philosophy when it comes to deciding how the cornerback position will be decided. That CB2 spot is up for grabs, Ringo versus Adoree Jackson. He talked about how likely that will be decided. He kept it pretty plain, and I think we already knew this. He essentially spoke about the fact that, look, it's going to be determined based simply on who's playing better, who's the most consistent, who's doing what they're supposed to be doing, even when the ball is not coming their way. And that's something Vic Fangio really stressed in his press conference, that to the naked eye, to the untrained eye, you're conditioned to follow the ball. As spectators, as fans of the sport, right? We're not coaches. Maybe some of my viewers were high school coaches. Maybe some of my viewers were our college coaches, whatever it is. Maybe you coached, maybe some of you guys coach other sports, right? I know there's some parents out there that are very heavy into youth sports. So maybe some of you are familiar with what I'm about to discuss, but Vic Fangio stressed the fact that the untrained eye is conditioned to follow the ball. But he says my job is to not only pay attention to where the action is, but also pay attention to what other players are doing when the ball's not coming their way. Because just looking at it from another perspective, on offense, that is, there are some wide receivers who don't commit to their routes because they know the ball is not coming their way, or at least they know the ball is not supposed to come their way. And I think it's so important for guys to do everything with the same effort, with the same intensity, and do it the same every single time. I think it's important to be consistent and approach every rep, every route as a wide receiver the same, even when the ball is or isn't coming your way, because that's how you keep defenses honest, and that's how you keep them, or that's how you keep yourself from tipping off what the play is. So bringing it back to what Vic Fangio is talking about, right? I need this. I need to be able to see who's the most consistent when the ball's coming their way and when the ball is not coming their way. Makes sense to me. That's the most important thing when evaluating a player. How they approach every rep, even when the ball is or isn't coming their way. He spoke about Sidney Brown briefly. He spoke about how, he sees him getting better. And he was open about the fact that Sidney Brown didn't have a chance to really get reps last year. He didn't really have a spring or a summer because of the injury, because of recovering from the injury, the torn ACL, I think. So Sidney Brown was behind schedule in terms of on-field action. And Fangio speaks very candidly about it doesn't matter how many mental reps you take. There's nothing that beats the on-field reps. Nothing beats that. Like Andrew Makuba. Andrew Makuba's hurt right now with a shoulder injury. And there's nothing Makuba, there's no film he can watch that's going to equal the reps he'll get on the field. So it's going to be important for him to get back as soon as possible, and we don't know how long Makuba's going to be out. We don't know. I'm not a doctor. Maybe some of you are, but I'm not. And we're not familiar with the true intricacies of the injury are. We don't know how long he'll be out. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Will he play the first preseason game? Won't he? We don't know. We just don't know. So Makuba is missing valuable installation time. Meanwhile, Sidney Brown is healthy. He's playing. And Sidney Brown is also making up for lost time, right? And Fangio mentioned, with CJ, GJ, he didn't say them by name, but, the roster depth at the position didn't give him an opportunity to really get reps. Plus, recovering from the injury took away his summer. So he understands Sidney Brown's making it for lost time, and he's recognizing that he is getting better. He's seeing that he's getting better with with more reps. And on top of that, again, he mentioned that he had no chance really to show what he learned or what he didn't learn or whatever it may be because of the depth with CJ, GJ, Blankenship, and just overall health, man. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. Let me read some of these super chats real quick before I get too far ahead. I appreciate all of you guys donating to the channel. It means a lot. Let's see here. Miss Fanny, who's been a member for 6 months. Shout out to Miss Fanny. I appreciate her. She says even pick six Ricks was making plays at his position. Yeah, he did. He made some plays in one-on-ones. He did. All right. The first super chat here. Miss Fanny back again with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Miss Fanny. I really do appreciate you as always. She says here, Vic Fangio's name alone breeds respect. He's going to allow a player to cut his own self from the team. Accountability is what makes champions. I agree 100%, Fanny. Fangio, all he's doing is evaluating. I say this all the time, and I firmly believe this. You're not competing with anybody out there but yourself. I know we talk about position battles and everything, but the reality is if you do what you're supposed to do, if you focus on checking your box, if you focus on doing everything right, focusing on the details, being active in the film room, being active on the football field, always being near the ball, making plays, doing your job even when the ball's not coming your way. When you're doing things the right way, the coaches will see you. Vic Fangio will see you. If you're playing with high effort, Vic Fangio is going to notice you. Clint Hurt and all those guys, Christian Parker, Jeremiah Washburn, they're going to notice you. It's just that simple. So it's really not that complicated. Be accountable for yourself, help your teammates. On top of that, be active in the film room, pay attention to the details, be active on the football field. If you do your job and you give it 110%, all you can do is just let the chips fall where they may, because Vic Fangio will put the right people on the field. So, Fanny, I couldn't agree with you more. And my man S. Blunt with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Blunt. Thank you. He says, Tone, have you projected your early 53-man roster yet? How many O-linemen, wide receivers, cornerbacks, running backs, and safeties you got making the team? I haven't started yet, personally. I wanted to wait a little bit. I actually wanted to wait until maybe that first preseason game. I wanted to at least see that first preseason game before I gave out my 53-man roster prediction. But yeah, I haven't given it much thought. Just to be honest with you, I haven't given it much thought. But because I know I did one last year, and I wasn't that far off. So I'll work on that, and I'll get back to you guys. Maybe I'll have it done before the first preseason game. But yeah, Blunt. Overall, though, I think if I had to give you a prediction of the toughest group or the toughest cuts, I think they're going to have a tough time making their cuts at offensive line, and I think they're going to have a tough time making their cuts on the edge. Those are the two groups that I think they're going to have the toughest time cutting. That's just my humble opinion. Jerry Potter, thank you for the super chat, my man. I appreciate it. He says Eagles are going to destroy the Cow Bums by at least 2 touchdowns. I can't wait to see our Eagles dismantle them live at the link. Go Birds. Hey, man, I think the Eagles are going to win the game as well. I think the Eagles are going to be pretty dominant in the game, but you got to keep in mind it's week 1. Crazy things happen in week 1. Now, this is not me casting any doubt, but just keep in mind week 1, a lot of mistakes happen in week 1. So I expect the Eagles to really lean on their run game, play action game. I know they're going to push the ball down the field, but I expect week 1 to be a very physical matchup. I really do. Thank you for the super chat. All right, getting back to Vic Fangio's comments here. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Stay active, you guys. The show only gets better. I appreciate all 132 of you guys in the live stream. Make sure you guys smash that like button when you come in. Make sure you smash that like button before you get too comfortable. We have 132 people watching the show, and we only have 54 likes. The math is not mathing. I need you guys to do your part and smash that like button. Very easy. Doesn't cost you a thing. All right, let's get back to Vic Fangio's comments here. So I mentioned he pretty much was brutally honest about Adoree Jackson. We touched on Moro Jomo. We touched on Sidney Brown and Andrew Makuba's injury, right? I want to talk about Jihaad Campbell. Jihaad Campbell has been a very fascinating player to watch throughout training camp because he's ahead of schedule. And although he's been listed as limited on the injury reports, most of these reporters out there really can't tell because he's been super active, man, and he's been playing with confidence. But when Vic Fangio was asked about Jihaad Campbell, he said, and I quote, "I see him making little strides every day. It may not be noticeable to the untrained eye, but if he keeps making the strides, he will be the player we think he can be," end quote. And another thing he mentioned regarding Campbell and the linebacker position as a whole, he mentioned that the most important thing that he and the room as a whole, but just focusing on Campbell, he mentioned that the most important thing that can be learned and taught is being able to identify and discern a pass play from a run play. And when you're at that linebacker position, your job is to diagnose. Your most important trait is play recognition. Because if you know what's coming and you know where to be, I don't care what they say about your 40-yard dash time, or I don't care what they say about your size or whatever it is. If you know where to be and you know how to get there efficiently and effectively, I can't sit here and say that player isn't good, right? You can always find a faster player. You can always find a player that that does something athletically spectacular, but being able to discern and diagnose and recognize the difference between when a run play is occurring versus a pass play and not getting caught up in the play action, not getting lost in the wash, that's going to be the most important trait for Jihaad Campbell to learn, because coming out of college, they mentioned that was the one thing he still needed to work on. Sometimes he can get caught in the wash when it comes to play action plays. So he has to be much more disciplined. It's not a talent issue. It's not a athleticism issue. He knows how to play football. He has good footwork. He's very, very good in coverage, but he does have to get stronger at discerning pass from run and being able to react effectively. So, again, Jihaad Campbell's a rookie, and already he's calling plays. I think when Jihaad Campbell today, when he was on the second team, he was when he was next to Smile Mondon, he was the linebacker getting everybody lined up right. He was the one calling plays and being the voice on defense. And even when he was on the first team with Jeremiah Trotter Jr., he was still the one calling things out, being active out there, being the voice on the defense. So again, it seems like every day with Jihaad Campbell, there's more and more things coming out about him that makes us feel good about the pick. And I just think Jihaad Campbell is going to be a phenomenal talent, and I think Jihaad Campbell will win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I think Jihaad Campbell will be a top 2 or top 3 player on this Eagles defense in the long term. Right? Jalen Carter is already the best player in your defense. I think Cooper DeJean is up there. You got Quinyon Mitchell up there. And then I think Jihaad Campbell is going to be somebody in that category. I think when it's all said and done, I think your 4 horsemen on your defense will be Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, and Jihaad Campbell. And, Zack Baun is obviously a vet, signed a 3-year extension. We'll see how Zack Baun's career progresses beyond the All-Pro season. And he is the vet. But as far as your foundational players, as far as your young guys who you're developing and you've yet to give big contracts to, I think Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Jihaad Campbell are going to be your 4 pillars on this defense in the long term. Let's continue here. with Vic Fangio's notes or Vic Fangio's press conference, excuse me. He also gave love to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Says Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is much better this year. You know, given the fact that he was active, he was on special teams, he was with the team the entire season. He didn't get hurt, so he didn't miss any practice reps, didn't miss any snaps on the football field. Gave a lot of credit to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. For just being super diligent about his development. Another person he gave credit to that I've been overlooking, I've been ignoring, not for anything personal or negative, just he's not necessarily high profile, and he kind of can slip through the cracks because he's not a highly drafted player. He was drafted, I think, in the 5th or 6th round, something like that. And that person is Mac McWilliams, excuse me. Vic Fangio gave a lot of praise, a lot of respect to Mac McWilliams in his press conference. He mentioned how Mac McWilliams has really good instincts, but still has to learn the finer points, the finer details to what he's being asked. But he also mentioned he can be hit and miss sometimes, but that's to be expected. You know, he's acknowledging the fact that, hey, this player has tools that I like, but he's also a rookie, so he's going to make mistakes. That's to be expected. But he's speaking directly to the fact that Mac McWilliams out of UCF, he's coming in with some pretty good tools that Vic Fangio can work with. Again, having good football instincts, right? And he also mentioned that he has good skill and he has some football savvy, which he likes and he thinks is important. You know, he mentions how there's some things you just can't teach. There's some things that just doesn't come to a guy. He says Mac McWilliams has come in and he has pretty good football instincts. He has some football savvy that he likes that gives him a good foundation. So, you know, that hearing Vic Fangio mention that about Matt McWilliams is very reassuring. It's very reassuring because, you know, we know the Eagles are going to be very multiple with their defense. We know Cooper DeJean is playing safety in base packages, and we also know Cooper DeJean will be in the nickel spot, right? And look, you know, he mentioned how although Cooper DeJean has been taking reps at safety and base, they haven't really had too many opportunities to really test him in that position. They haven't had too many opportunities to really get him in that position and really challenge him because the Eagles offense has been living in 11 personnel primarily throughout training camp. So there's not many opportunities. They're few and far between where he's able to really tap into or really challenge Cooper DeJean at safety. But again, with Matt McWilliams coming along and showing that he does have something that Vic Fangio can work with, I think that's really important. I think that's really important given the circumstances surrounding Adoree Jackson, given the circumstances surrounding even Keely Ringo, right? And Matt McWilliams, because of his size, he may likely be a nickel guy, a guy that's in the slot. You know, you may see him used in dime packages. That may be the best way for him to get on the football field. But, you know, he did play outside at UCF. So we'll see. You know, there are smaller corners in this league that are good, like Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie's not a big guy at all, but he still gets it done. We'll see, though. It's just good to hear positive things about Matt McWilliams coming from Vic Fangio. All right, let's continue here down my notes from the press conference. We're eventually going to get to training camp observations. He spoke about Jordan Davis's weight loss. He was asked about what does Jordan Davis's weight loss mean for his progression as a pass rusher. And, you know, he mentioned how, you know, listen, you lose the weight when you're in shape and you're conditioned, you can do more and you can stay on the football longer and you can add more tools to the toolbox, right? He also mentioned with the weight loss, that means less weight, which equals improved mobility. Less weight equals improved mobility. And when you're tired, when you're not conditioned, when you're not in shape, it's hard for you to get low. It's hard for a 6'6" guy to make himself 6'2". You feel what I'm saying? That's what he said. He mentioned how when you're tired, it's hard for a guy to get sick. It's hard for a guy his size to get to bring himself down to be 6'2". And that makes a lot of sense, right? And we've seen Jordan Davis make huge strides in 2024. He earned that Super Bowl ring. But seeing Jordan Davis in training camp now, he's trim. He looks in shape. He looks great. He sounds great. Attitude is fantastic. Understands the assignment. Understands that the game is bigger than him. Understands that he's not just playing for himself. He's playing for his teammates, playing for his coaches, his family, so on and so forth. He understands that his health is his most important asset these days, and he's a big guy, so it's going to be really important for him to make sure he keeps that weight down. So, yeah, man, great things to hear about Jordan Davis. He even mentioned when it comes to the edge rusher group, and this was another interesting part of the conversation as well. He mentioned, because he was asked about the depth and his comfortability level. He mentioned that he's very comfortable with Nolan and Jalen Hunt right now. He thinks Nolan and Jalen Hunt, they're good to go. He knows they're going to be exactly what he needs to be. He's pretty happy about their trajectory. He's pretty comfortable with those guys as his two leading edge rushers. Where it gets interesting, though, is that he said beyond that, beyond Nolan Smith, beyond Jalen Hunt, and I quote, "There's heavy competition and no one has stood out, good or bad." That's interesting to me because when you look at the depth chart and you go beyond the guys we know, obviously the starters with Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. When you go beyond those guys, you have Josh Uche, you got Azeez Ojulari, you got Obo Okoronkwo, you got Antoine Powell-Ryland, Patrick Johnson, O'Shawn Mathis, right? So Uche, Ojulari, Obo, APR, they haven't quite done enough to separate themselves from the group. And he's making that a clear-cut open competition, heavy competition. If your name not Jalen Hunt, if your name not Nolan Smith, don't get comfortable. And Uche got some first-team reps today. Obviously, Nolan Smith, he was out with a concussion. But Uche got the start today ahead of Ojulari, but I don't think that's indicative of Ojulari's performance. I think Uche, if you look at the depth chart, Uche is technically Nolan Smith's replacement. So Uche lines up on the left side. Ojulari lines up on the right side. Ojulari is Jalen Hunt's backup. So I don't think Uche getting that first team start ahead of Ojulari is indicative of Ojulari's performance. I just think that's a schematic thing. I just think that's a depth chart thing. Nonetheless, Uche, Ojulari, Obo, APR, those guys, they're battling. They're competing. That means our guy APR has as fair a chance to get that rotational spot as Ojulari and Uche, which is good. It's good. That means it's a meritocracy. They're not going to hold him back because he's a young player, and the Eagles proved that on many occasions with their decisions in 2024. And yes, S. Blunt, you're right. Uche got a sack today. He did get a sack. He beat, was it Darian Kennard? I think he beat Darian Kennard on a drill. Now, the question is, was that a blown assignment by Darian Kennard? Did Uche beat him cleanly? Because from what I'm hearing or what I read, Uche essentially came off the line untouched. So I don't know how much I don't know how much stock I put into that. But nonetheless, he got the sack, so it goes in the bank for him, which is good. Let me get to some of these super chats real quick. I don't want them to get too far away from me. And also, shout out to Lynn for becoming a new member. of the Chalk It Up Sports family. Appreciate you. All right. My man here is this Alex. My man Alex with the $4.99 super chat says, which position group do you think is the best on the team from top to bottom? For me, it's the linebacker room, slightly edging out the D line room. So if I were you, I would separate D tackle from the edge guys. That's what I would do. I would obviously the D line is the D line, but I would separate that if I were you. But nonetheless, because I think the D tackle room is deep, right? I do. But that linebacker room, you may be onto something because the linebackers have been having a phenomenal camp, especially today when the pads came on. The linebackers have really been playing well. Everybody down to Smile Mondon. They've been playing very well. Trotter Jr., Ojulari, Zack Baun, Smile Mondon, right? Even who was it? Even it's my guy's name here. Lance Dixon. Even Lance Dixon's been playing well. So, yeah, man. I may have to agree with you, though. It may be linebacker. It just may be linebacker, and I may put D tackle neck and neck with that. I may put D tackle right there. But if you want to go the whole D line, because it gets a little tricky, right? Nolan and Jalen are technically off-ball linebackers, but they're edge rushers. You get what I'm saying? So it all depends how you want to look at it. It all depends on how you want to look at it. You can't forget the O-line, though. The O-line is deep. They're talented. They got a good blend of youth and veteran leadership. That O-line is like a cheat code. That O-line is like a cheat code, Alex. Let's call that what it is, too. So yeah, now that I think about it, because Luther Winfield said O-line by far. He now that I think about it, because I completely didn't think about the O-line. I was only thinking about defense. You may got to go O-line. You may have to do that. You know? Alex with another super chat, excuse me. He says Reed Blankenship has the same agent as Terry McLaurin. He's cooked. Oh man. I don't even know what you mean. What do you mean he's cooked? Are you talking like what, Reed Blankenship is cooked? Terry McLaurin, like what are you getting at, Alex? What are you getting at? All right, let's continue here. So I think I pretty much spoke about everything I needed to speak about when it comes to Vic Fangio's press conference. If you guys get a chance, definitely go watch it. It was very entertaining. It was very entertaining, man. All right, let's see. Let's keep this thing going here. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Really do appreciate it, you guys. Stay active. Let's see where we are with those likes. So we have 138 people on the stream, only 87 likes. 87 likes is important. I really do appreciate that. But you know, we got to make sure we get that up to 100, man. Let's get to 100 likes, y'all. We got to get to 100 likes before we get out of here. We got about 7 minutes. We got about 5 or 7 minutes left in the show. So make sure you guys hit that like button. And let's get that to 100. Right now, we're at 88 likes. Let's get it to 100 likes, y'all. I appreciate that. All right, so let's give a quick rundown of training camp. So as far as injury updates, remember, today was the first day of full pads, but Zack Baun didn't practice today. He's dealing with a little bit of a back contusion. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Nolan Smith didn't practice as well. He's been dealing with a concussion. I wouldn't worry too much about that in the long term. I think Nolan will make a recovery. Concussions aren't something to sneeze at, but you know, it wasn't an ACL, wasn't a shoulder, wasn't a knee, right? It wasn't his tricep. Just got dinged a little bit. So I think Nolan and Zack Baun will be fine ultimately with what they're dealing with, the back contusion for Baun and the concussion for Nolan Smith. Devontae Smith, Danny Gray, and Makuba are still out. Smitty dealing with a tight back a little bit. Danny Gray, wide receiver, dealing with a finger. He really can't afford to miss any time. and then Drew Makuba, safety. Dealing with the shoulder. He's another guy that really can't afford to miss any time as well, especially if he wants to get those reps ahead of Sidney Brown and prove that he can be trusted. Jihaad Campbell, Jalen Carter, still limited with shoulder injuries. Cam Jurgens limited with the back. Ismail Mandan is limited as well. But again, like I mentioned to you guys, Jihaad Campbell has not looked like a guy who's been limited. He's been very active. Very active. And then Terrace Marshall Jr., wide receiver, he got hurt today. It looked like a leg injury from what I read, from what I heard. It looked like a little bit of a leg injury. We don't know what the extent of that is. Maybe he hyperextended something. Maybe he bruised something, tweaked something, whatever it is. But yeah, Terrace Marshall went down, which means more reps for Johnny Wilson, more reps for Anaya Smith. Who else at that wide receiver position? More rep. Well, we know Jahan Dotson is going to be where he's going to be, but more reps for Elijah Cooks, who had a good day today. Darius Cooper, Taylor Morin, Giles Jackson, Avery Williams. Just more overall reps for those background guys. But especially for Johnny Wilson and Anaya Smith. And with Smitty being out as well. So Smitty, Terrace Marshall, and Danny Gray out with injuries. That means Johnny Wilson, Anaya Smith, Elijah Cooks. Those guys move up and get more opportunities potentially with the first and second teams. All right, let's get to the observations from as far as personnel goes. So when it comes to personnel observations, basically the depth chart and who lined up with what groups. Tyler Steen, still your starting right guard for a fifth straight practice. And I think we expect him to be the starter when the season starts. I just think that it's something that they're monitoring because he had the job at one point last season and he lost it. And the Eagles did bring in some O-line help with Matt Pryor and Kendall Lamb. Right, they had Darian Kennard, they got Laken Bakalahi. You know, they drafted guys like Cameron Hinton, Drew Kendall. Who else, man? They drafted quite a few guys, right? They still got Quinyon Green on the roster, Trevor Keegan, Brett Toth, Holland Pierce. So yeah. I think that's the reason we keep getting updates about Tyler Steen, because he had the job at one point last year and he lost it. But nonetheless, Tyler Steen, I think he'll be the starter by week one. I'm not worried about that. Not like I mentioned before, with Terrence Marshall Jr. going down and obviously Devontae Smith being out, Anaya Smith and Johnny Wilson got more reps with the first team. Darian Kennard, like I mentioned, and Matt Pryor have been rotating at second team right guard and right tackle. So Darian Kennard is somebody the Eagles like. He's somebody that they've been developing. When it comes to Darian Kennard's measurables, Darian Kennard is 6'5", 322 pounds. So he has position. Pardon me. He has position versatility. He's 25 years old. Came into the league in 2022. So we'll see how that goes. But Matt Pryor and Darian Kennard are clearly battling for that second team right guard and right tackle spot. They're battling to be the backup right guard and or right tackle. Another note, Keely Ringo got the start opposite Quinyon Mitchell on day 5. This has been his first start since day 1. So as far as how many starts they have under their belts, Keely Ringo has 2 starts under his belt from day 1 and day 5. And Adoree Jackson has 3 consecutive starts under his belt, 2, 3, and 4. Cooper DeJean, he's still getting those first team reps at safety in the base packages. But Sidney Brown got the start in the nickel packages. So that's to be expected. And remember what I told you. Even though DeJean is getting those base package starts at safety, we haven't really seen much of it. As much as we really thought, it's happening, but they're not really able to really challenge him and really test his mettle at that position because they haven't really been able to do it. The offense has been in 11 personnel most of the time. Maybe we'll see more of it if they get into some 12 personnel, right? Or even maybe some 21 personnel. Let's see here. Trotter Jr., Jihaad Campbell, they got the starts at linebacker with N'Kobe Dean and Zach Baun being out. Small mind on the Lance Dixon led the second teams, but they also got some reps with the first teams as well. And as far as the first team defensive line, Josh Uche, Ojomo, Jordan Davis, Thomas Booker, and Jalen Hunt led the first team defense, the first team defensive line. Obviously, Jalen Carter has been dealing with the shoulder. He is somebody who is currently still limited, and he hasn't really done any team activities quite yet. So that's why Ajomo, or I'm sorry, that's why Thomas Booker is on that field. And notice Thomas Booker got the nod ahead of Ty Robinson, right? And that's not an indictment on Ty Robinson, but that's just a note that Thomas Booker has more experience. He clearly knows what to do out there. He must be having a slightly better camp. And it just gives gives the Eagles an overall opportunity to see what he can do when he gets the opportunity to start. So yeah, and again, I mentioned Uche was in for Nolan Smith primarily because he is technically his backup on the depth chart, whereas the Ojulari is Jalen Hunt's backup on the depth chart. All right, now let's get to the key on-field observations. Let's see here how much time we got left in the show. I'm gonna try to get through this as quickly and as efficiently as I possibly can. All right, so as far as the key on-field observations for me, like I mentioned earlier, Jihaad Campbell has been very, very, very strong out there, even though he's limited technically. He's been as advertised, but also Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has been giving him everything he can handle. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is not making it easy whatsoever for Jihaad Campbell to just come in and take that job. He's not making it easy. And remember, before training camp even started, I said likely the starters for training camp may be Zach Baun and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And it's going to depend where Jihaad Campbell is, where Jihaad Campbell is in his recovery. But they both have gotten reps with the first team. Trotter has gotten more, but they both have gotten reps with the first team. And Trotter is making Jihaad Campbell work. He's making him work for him, man. You got to be honest. Like I want to bring up some moments, some plays that happened today that I read about. That's pretty exciting, pretty good to hear. This was a big day for the defense, but more specifically, this was a big day for the linebackers, like we all mentioned earlier. Before I get too far, make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Where are we right now? We made it to over 100 likes, y'all. I really do appreciate the love and the support. Let's keep the love going. Shout out to all of you guys also who are watching on the playback and all of you who are listening and viewing on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It means a lot to me. It goes a long way. Make sure you guys stay active with the content. So as far as what Jihaad Campbell and Trotter did today on the field, Jihaad Campbell was able to sniff out a pass to Dallas Goedert in the flat, and he hit him hard. He popped him. Now, granted, Nick Sirianni tried to stress that this is not live. I don't want y'all taking each other's heads off. You know what I'm saying? But it's the first day of pads. So, guys are going to get excited about that, especially the defense. Jihaad Campbell took full advantage of that. And Jihaad Campbell took every opportunity to let the offense know that he's ready to play football. Jihaad Campbell sniffed out a pass to Dallas Goedert in the flat, and he hit him hard enough to send Goedert to the ground. He did try to show love to Goedert. He did try to apologize. He admits that he got a little too carried away. He tried to help him up and everything. Dallas Goedert probably wasn't trying none of that shit. But nonetheless, he popped the hell out of Goedert, which was good to see. That read and reactability, that tackling ability. And it also says here the day before, Jihaad Campbell tried to punch the ball off from Tanner McKee. Now, granted, they don't want you touching the quarterbacks. They don't want you trying to take the ball out of their hands. But nonetheless, Jihaad Campbell is playing football, man. He clearly only knows how to play football one way, and I respect that. He plays with aggression, and I like a guy. I like a guy that comes in and asserts himself. I like that a lot. All right, let's see here. As it pertains to Trotter, right? Trotter had a great day. I mean, what I'm reading here, Trotter had a great rep in coverage against Dallas Goedert on a fade thrown into the end zone, which means Trotter's coverage ability is showing. He was able to stay with Goedert step for step, stride for stride, which is really important, right? Trotter, he was praised in college for his versatility, his athleticism. he did come in with some coverage skills, right? He's not the biggest guy. Dallas Goedert is taller than him, if I'm not mistaken, but he was able to stay stride for stride with Dallas Goedert, and he managed to break up the pass. And that's a tough assignment for any linebacker, but Trotter did his thing. And on top of that, Trotter had a nice run fit against Saquon Barkley and made another play against his former college teammate, Will Shipley. So Trotter had a really good day, not only in coverage, but had a really good day in run defense as well, fitting his gaps and so on and so forth. Let's move on from the linebackers, from Trotter and Jihaad Campbell. Let's get to some DBs. Let's talk about Kelee Ringo. Kelee Ringo had a bounce back day. It was necessary. It was needed. He's kind of been a little shaky the past few days. And I got to give credit to Kelee Ringo for battling back, right? For battling back. It says here, Ringo had 2 good reps against Terrace Marshall specifically, right? Ringo had 2 good reps against Terrace Marshall. The first was a pass breakup, and the second he had really good coverage, and it looked like Marshall basically just stopped running for the ball. Kind of similar to what happened to Ringo, right? I think he was going up against Marshall or AJ Brown, and he kind of, I don't want to say gave up on the route, but I think he underestimated the ball, and he kind of just stopped running. Terrace Marshall did the same thing today, and Kelee Ringo took advantage of the opportunity. So that's the thing, right? Ringo, we know he can be in position, but does he take advantage of the opportunity? That's going to be the thing. Shout out to my man Pro Fan Talk in the building. That's my guy, Coach Marcus. Like I told you guys, Coach Marcus and I are trying to give you guys, or trying to set up a situation where we give you guys 2 shows, 2 live streams a week. Obviously, we're going to give you our pregame shows, right? But we're also going to try to give you a midweek recap, or a midweek review or breakdown. Live stream is giving you guys our perspective on what's been happening. So we're going to try to work on that as well. So shout out to my man, Pro Fan Talk, Coach Marcus. Does phenomenal work. Make sure you guys go subscribe to him, man. Coach Marcus is the best thing to happen. Is one of the best things to happen to me in this content game. I think Coach Marcus is a phenomenal brother, intelligent, played the game on all levels. High school, college, the NFL, the World League, the Canadian Football League. He's well-traveled. He's done it all. So I respect and I value Coach's football acumen, and grateful for him always lending his time to me. Now, getting back to my notes here, like I mentioned, Ringo had some pretty good reps against Terrace Marshall Jr. He also had a good rep defending the ball carrier, right? It says here, Kelee Ringo, he fought through a pick from Harrison Bryant to make a tackle near the line of scrimmage. It's a hard play for a corner to make, but Ringo had the size to make it happen. So Ringo made a pretty good play attacking the ball carrier, not allowing himself to get lost in the wash, not allowing himself to get caught up with the big play by Harrison Bryant. He showed good instincts, showed good size, good athleticism, showed a real good ability to sniff out the play. So Ringo overall had a better day, especially in one-on-ones. Had a much better day in one-on-ones. The Eagles didn't do any 7-on-7s today. They did a lot of red zone work, a lot of situational football work today. So Kelee Ringo had a really important day, and it was a bounce back day for him. Like I mentioned about Adoree Jackson, Vic Fangio has been very candid about him, and unfortunately, Adoree Jackson didn't have his best day today. He actually took a step back. They were doing one-on-ones, and Adoree Jackson, he got called for a defensive pass interference and coverage, and he really didn't like that call. And on top of that, he got popped by Johnny Wilson going into the end zone. So Adoree Jackson had a humbling day today, and we'll see if he bounces back. Josh Uche, I mentioned earlier, he got some first-team reps today, and he had a really good rep against Darian Kennard, the right tackle. He beat him cleanly for a sack on the second team. And also Uche has flashed some early signs of positivity in camp. And based off what Dave Zangaro is seeing, he believes Uche has slightly been outperforming Azeez Ojulari. But again, Uche getting the start ahead of Ojulari, I don't believe is indicative of Ojulari's standing with the team, because Vic Fangio has been very candid that none of those guys have stood out for the better or for the worse, and he's still waiting to see who separates themselves. He knows what he has in Nolan Smith. He knows what he has in Jalen Hunt. But Ojulari, Uche, APR, Patrick Johnson, guys like that, they haven't truly separated themselves yet. Ogbo, they haven't separated themselves yet. Not quite. Let's see here. Reed Blankenship, and this would be my last thing that I want to address before we get out of here. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. I'm giving you guys my final observation, the final observation, or at least my final key observation, because there were a lot of observations, but I'm focusing on the ones that I care about. The safeties, right? We talked about Sidney Brown and Drew Makuba, but we don't talk much about Reed Blankenship, and we don't talk enough about Tristan McCullum. Today was a pretty good day for Blankenship and McCullum. As far as Tristan McCullum, he had a really good hit on Darius Cooper, the wide receiver who's fighting for a job. He lowered his shoulder and was able to pop the ball free in the middle of the football field. And, you heard it loud. It was a hard pop, especially with the pads coming on. So that was a really big play for Tristan McCullum. And as far as Reed Blankenship, kind of similar situation. Reed Blankenship had a huge peanut punch at the ball and was able to knock the ball out of the hands of A.J. Dillon, and the ball ended up going out of bounds immediately. So, they teach this, they coach this, right? They coach these guys to attack the football. They coach these guys to punch the football out. They coach these guys to play the game to the final whistle. And Tristan McCullum and Reed Blankenship did that today. So that's pretty much it for our live stream today, you guys. I really do appreciate the love and support. You guys have been truly phenomenal supporting the content, and I don't take it for granted. That's all I have for you. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. I want to give a shout out to all of you guys watching us live, and I want to give a shout out to all of you guys who are watching the playback. And I want to even give another shout out to all of you guys who are listening on Apple Podcasts and or listening and watching on Spotify. You guys got plenty of options to catch the content. Make sure you guys check me out on TikTok. Check me out on Instagram as well. The content is everywhere you can find it. I'm also posting things on Twitter. I'm very active on X. So make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. As far as my members only roundtable, I definitely want to get that done. As a matter of fact, I want to get it done. I want to get it done before the first preseason game. So the first preseason game is going to be, let me see here. So the first preseason game is August 7th. So what I want to do is I want to do a members only roundtable, a members only show where I get y'all perspective about things y'all looking forward to seeing in that first preseason game against the Bengals, right? I want to touch base with you guys. So I'm still in the process of working out how I want to do that. But my goal is to get it done before the first preseason game so we can tap in with each other and figure out what we're looking for, what we want to see, what we expect, so on and so forth. So again, I say make sure you guys stay locked in. Give me a little bit of grace. Got a lot of things going on behind the scenes for myself, but make sure you guys stay active with the content. You guys are going to be made full aware when any changes, when anything happens. And also, I want to do a call-in show. We're going to bring the call-in shows back. I know you guys really enjoy those. Those are pretty cool. So make sure you guys stay locked in on the channel. I've been your humble host, Tone DeShields II, and you guys have been locked in on Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the gang.